just following orders. Good afternoon, everybody. This episode should be a great one. We will be focusing on the trial of Adolf Eichmann, which took place all throughout the year of 1961. Buckle in and get ready for a great episode, right after a few quick advertisements from our sponsors. Porsche, engineering greatness and domination since 1931. Hugo Boss, win your people's hearts and minds with Boss's classy new uniforms. Comes free with Schutzstaffel enlistment. And Pervitin, make your employees work harder and your husband snore less with our new safe supplement. Pervitin Company is not liable for any injury, sickness, and or death caused after having taken Pervitin. Thank you to our sponsors. Now let's get back to the episode. In order to have a complete understanding of how serious the Eichmann trial was, I'll start with a brief introduction into who Adolf Eichmann was. Adolf Otto Eichmann was a German-Austrian Nazi official, officer of the Schutzstaffel, better known as the SS, and a major organizer of the Final Solution. He worked for Reinhard Heydrich, a brutal man who spearheaded the Wannsee Conference and played the largest role in the organization of the Final Solution. After Heydrich was assassinated in 1942, Eichmann assumed Heydrich's role and carried out his legacy. For some legal context, Adolf Eichmann was put on trial for his part in the organization of the Holocaust during World War II. His role in the Wannsee Conference and his work as an SS official led to him being captured in Argentina in May of 1960, his trial in Jerusalem, and his hanging. Eichmann was hunted and put on trial after the introduction of the 1950 Nazi and Collaborators Punishment Law. This law allowed for Israeli courts to punish Nazi perpetrators for crimes against Jews during World War II. Eichmann was also charged with membership in the SA, which were the stormtroopers, the Nazi SD, which was the security service, and the Gestapo. Eichmann had also coordinated with Heinrich Müller to expel Jews from Greater Germany to occupied Poland, which he was also charged with. After Eichmann was caught, he was set for trial. The legal teams consisted of Gideon Hausner, who was the Attorney General, and Robert Servatius, who was the defense attorney. The prosecution's argument was extremely straightforward. Hausner made multiple arguments to the court against Eichmann. These arguments included the persecution of the Jews in all its stages, the anti-Jewish legislation, the incitement among the general population of hostility to the Jewish minority, the plunder of Jewish property, and worst of all, the searching out of the Jews in every European country under German occupation and in the satellite states, their imprisonment in ghettos and concentration camps, and finally, their systemic mass murder with the aim of completely destroying the Jewish people. Hausner closed his argument by reminding the court that Eichmann was in charge of all the steps taken to implement the final solution. The defense decided not to denounce these claims made by the prosecuting team. Instead, they went for a different approach that would make this trial the most famous trial against any war criminal. The defense depicted Eichmann as a small piece in the machinery of the Holocaust who was an underling and had no choice but to carry out the wishes and demands of his superiors. For the outcome, after hearing both arguments, the court rejected the defense's claim that Eichmann was just following orders. The trial had proven that Eichmann was both mentally and emotionally identified with his role in the Holocaust. Official documents brought up toward the end of the trial proved that during the final stages of the war, Eichmann became obsessed with coming as close as possible to complete and total destruction of the Jews. The prosecution had been persuaded that with every order given to Eichmann, he would do everything in his power to implement them as harshly as possible, and at the end of the trial, the court found Eichmann guilty on all counts, and he was sentenced to death on December 15, 1961. This trial had a long-term impact because not only did the trial convict one of the most infamous people in Nazi history, but it also raised the question of how easily humans are influenced to follow orders. This trial and the defense argument led to a psychological study to be held by Yale University. This study was called the Milgram experiment, and it consisted of 3 groups of participants. One group was the experimenter, one was a real test subject, and the other was a fake test subject. The experimenter instructed the subject to inflict electrical shocks to the other subject, whom the test subject did not know was fake. With each shock, the fake subject would make noises and/or scream, pretending to feel pain. As time went on, the experimenter would pressure the subject to increase the voltage. With every shock, the fake subject would cry out in more and more agonizing pain. This experiment would go on either until the experimenter told the subject to stop, or the subject reached their breaking point and would go no further with the experiment. This experiment determined that people will obey authority figures either out of fear or desire to appear and remain cooperative. Though the results of this experiment concluded that one would absolutely do what they're told in a pressuring environment, the conclusion that Eichmann knew exactly what he was doing and the fact that he took pride in it led to his execution. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.